everyone. This is Louise, and thanks to Drew about the wonderful introduction. I'm not sure what language I can use in this lecture, but I'll start with English first. If anyone has questions regarding the SAT rating, please be patient. I think I can make my reading skills first, and to give you a brief introduction. I don't consider myself to be a wizard or sorcerer, but I think the reading skills for me, for the SAT critical reading, it's more scientific. For most SAT students, I think in China they have to take the language test first, which is TOEFL, and compared to the two different readings, many students have considered SAT critical reading to be much more complex and complicated. For the reasons, I think first is because the difficult vocabulary will make the SAT test seems much more intellectual, and with all the subjects that we are not very familiar with. But for me, I think if you are a very logical person and you have perfect logical reasoning, you can simplify the SAT critical reading into the easier one as the TOEFL. So in my lecture today, because due to the time limit, I think I'll just make this point very clearly. As we have made it quite clear in the lecture introduction, we will talk about only the 干货, which means the very practical problem-solving skills. So I will present a material for you first. It's from the SAT test. As an example, we can see how we can find the logical reasoning in the academic essay. The three pictures I have just shown you is about the first long passage in a passage pair. Normally in the real SAT test, most students are treating the long passage pair as the most difficult one to solve, because first the task is quite difficult because you have to go through 2 whole pages of literature critics. Of course, I choose the most difficult subject in this area. And then you can see this is only one passage, and it has so many texts that you have to go through. But most students feel it is impossible to solve all the questions without going through every sentence in the passage. But due to the time limited in the real test, it is impossible to read the test thoroughly first. If you are very good at English grammar and to have the basic analysis of the English sentences, like the complex sentences, you can just spend 3 minutes to carefully read every first sentence in every paragraph. And that will give you a main idea, because in the passage comparison, you only need to get the different attitudes into passages. So that will help a lot when you started dealing with all the questions below. If we look at the first picture, you could see the brief introduction about the 2 passages. The main topic is about the translation of poetry. And the passage 1, we have 2 paragraphs in the first picture, and you read the 2 first sentences, you can get the main idea. Even the attitude of the first passage is the scholar will treat the literal translation to be a better option of translating the poetry. And based on our experiences dealing with the SAT test, we can already guess the second passage will have a different opinion, which might be the literal translation was not so good as stated in the first one. So according to all the information we have gained through the 2 minutes reading in the first passage, we can already started to deal with the questions in the following. As the question 12 and 13, you will see that he will have some questions regarding the first passages. The answer of the question 12 is in the second picture, because he already marked the line 40. The European translator might argue that those guilty of the crime are likely to. We have to answer this question according to the basic attitude we have got from the passage 1, which is literal translation is good. So if you go through all the options you have, like the first one, forced ancient ideas into a modern mode, encourage literary accomplishment while neglecting traditional scholarship. Insist that ancient poems be read only in their original languages, treat authors with excessive reverence, pursue commercial success rather than artistic excellence. For all the questions in SAT test, as Chinese, we can easily tell a lot of the options are just made up by the examiner. Like for the last option, like we say, pursue commercial success, which is a concept never presented in the passage. So you can already root it out. Then you have all the options like A, B, C, D. But which word tell you a positive attitude, as stated in passage 1? Okay, we already got an answer, which is Jing Jing Gao. He said the correct answer should be B, encourage literary accomplishment while neglecting traditional scholarship. If you look at the first part, encourage, we can get the positive attitude of the author, but there is a while, which adds some negative, like neglecting as the word, traditional scholarship. I wouldn't say that like the option B would be the correct answer due to the complex part, because you cannot say it's good or bad, because you have the good part as encourage, but you have a bad part as neglecting. Tiffany got E, but E is the first one. I rooted it out because you have commercial success, which is a concept you never see presented in the first passage. For question 12, the most difficult option, your decision should be made between C and D. Because according to passage 1, we get that, yes, the literal translation, which means you have to insist on the ancient poems, only in their original language. But D, treat author with excessive reverence. I don't know if there's anyone who still cannot understand the word reverence, but it is a positive word. It means respect. Okay, according to question 12, we have already got the wonderful person with the most flawless logic in our group, which is Bethany, because I think he has truly understand what I'm talking about just now. If you check on the second picture I have sent you about the passage 1, and we can locate in the line 40, and we can find the word crime. The whole sentence would be, that attitude would have seemed a crime to European translators in ages past. That attitude would have seemed a crime. Where is this attitude? If we have to locate the logic in this sentence, we have to refer to the phrase or sentences before this one, which is the first sentence of this paragraph. Nowadays, 100 years after Matthew Arnold, we're fond of literary translation. In fact, many of us accept only literary translation because we want to give the original authors their due. If you have difficulty in truly understanding, we want to give the original authors their due. Most students will have a problem with the word due. You wouldn't guess the answer to be right because you can see that a lot of people in the group have choose different options. It seems like all the options to them are quite similar. So we have to find the exact answer in the passages to solve this question. Yes, both Gao Jingjing and Tiffany defined the word due in a very correct way. In financial area, you can say it's a credit or it's a payment. But anyhow, it's something people deserve. In our context, it means something the original authors deserve. So in our correct answer D, we said excessive reverence, which means in a simple version, it means more respect. Okay, so I think I have already gave everybody a wonderful example for us to exercise your logical reasoning. So you have to suppose if you are in a SAT test, if you spend minutes on the original test, but you didn't locate the exact sentences, you are supposed to find the answer there. You will never get the answers right because you have 5 answers. all of which are so similar to each other, even if in the correct answer, the answer D, excessive reverence. The word excessive will give students a false impression that it is a negative one, because excessive sometimes means more than you needed. You have to integrate this answer with the original phrase. If you find the due equals reverence, and the original answer equals excessive, so you got the answer right. According to my experiences teaching SAT critical reading for all these years, a lot of students are missing the most critical skill, which is location. Because in every questions, they have already give you like you can find the word or the sentence in line 40, but that is not the answer. We have to find the phrase first and then understand the logic in these sentences and try to locate the answer before or after the question sentences. So for most of the students, I think they spend or spare too much time on the unnecessary readings. Actually, we have practiced a little bit. If we have already read the first sentence of every paraphrase, we have already got the main idea in this passage. But to answer every question details correctly, you have to locate the right sentence to solve the problem. And I'm not sure for all the students in our group or the parents in our group, when it's your big examination. And if you are taking the redesigned SAT later in the future, you have to pay attention to the question I just presented before, because in the new redesigned SAT test for the critical reading part, all the assessment of your vocabulary will be the vocabulary in the context. You have to understand the logic to guess the meaning of the simple word. It's not like the most difficult word in the world, as we have already seen in the old SAT test. So to prepare yourself with this kind of logical analysis skills will also help you a lot with the new SAT. So we still got some time to continue reading these first passages. If you carefully check the picture, the second picture, we could like get the main ideas with more thorough understanding of the attitude of the first passage towards the poetry translation. You can tell that in a single passage, the author will constantly repeat his opinion again and again. If you see the paragraph starting with, for example, in the Romance languages, we do not say it is cold to describe. He just tell you some difference between different Western languages, between French, between Italian, and to tell you how to do the literal translation, which is good. And then the next paragraph, they said, Matthew points out if a text is translated literally, the forcing phrases are created. But it follows with, I do not know, which correct this opinion. Okay, we got an anonymous member in our group to raise a question regarding the SAT test in October. If you have already taken the test in June and you still are not satisfied with your result and you have to take the test in October, I guess you must have finished some practices. I don't think OG, like the official guidance, is your best choice because it's comparatively quite old. But you haven't finished that book, you have to check that first to have a thorough understanding of the different parts in a SAT test. But I strongly suggest you need to practice what I present you today. I think the material I got you today is from 2008. It's the real test. And you still got a lot of we in China or I don't know in the United States, normally we have 10 years of real test questions for students to practice. Well, thanks everybody. I didn't realize how time flies in this short hour. I hope I have made one point very clearly in our lecture today. And in the end, I think I can end this lecture with a quote from Homer. He said, there's a time for many words, and there's also a time for sleep. I guess in California, you have already got the time for a wonderful night. So if you don't have any more questions, I'll be off very shortly. And I hope everyone, either for parents or for students, you can get a very good result in the upcoming October test or in the test in the future. Thanks, everybody.